Good day to you. My name is Mark Johnston. I'm your host here on Your Vote, Your TV's extensive coverage of the 2022 municipal election. And I have the great pleasure today to welcome sitting Mayor John Henderson here in the town of Cobourg. Welcome, Mayor Henderson.
Oh, well, thank you, Mark.
Pleasure to have you here. And our purpose here is to get to know you a little better, talk about the next 4 years in the town of Cobourg, your thoughts, your hopes, your dreams, and certainly all you've accomplished to date. So an opportunity just to open a conversation. And I would like to ask this out of the gate, if I may. You've had some wonderful years here in the mayor's office, and this is a potential turning point. I'd like to hear from you what you feel you've achieved the most over the years in the seat of mayor, town of Cobourg, and how that will prepare you for the next 4 years and what you'd like to achieve.
Okay, well, let me get started. First of all, I don't think anybody was aware of the word COVID. I think COVID speaks for itself. I wish to compliment the team. We had an emergency management team through it all. Multiple players and organizations, and we're still not through it. In fact, I have my health board meeting today. It's still with us. Yeah. But with that being said, I'm very pleased the way Cobourg came out of COVID. I do give my sincere, deepest thoughts to those who lost a family member or spent time in a long-term care home with the aggravation, frustration. But all in all, Cobourg came out of COVID with flying colors compared to many municipalities. I'm also pleased that even though we modified our services and our departments, no service stopped functioning. And based on that, we're able to meet our demands on our 6 services. As one example, Parks and Rec, Community Service, Public Works, Environmental Service, Fire Service, the list goes on. So through that, you might think, well, really not much happened in Cobourg, but I can tell you, in fact, it's almost the opposite. Since that time, again, when I say new businesses, it doesn't always mean new. It might mean they're somewhere else, they relocated, they've upped their size, square footage, they started anew, they have a new premise, new vision. When I open, or we open through the DBIA, we're hearing 4 more businesses will open between now and Thanksgiving. I believe that will mean we have reopened or opened 22 businesses in Cobourg in the downtown core since Christmas of this past year. Again, it could also mean they relocated to what we call the Stratheast secondary plan. What people sometimes forget that Cobourg owns 2 valuable pieces. We own the Northern Industrial Park, which they often forget about, where some of our key long-term players are there, whether it be Graphic Packaging, Horizon Plastics, Baxter's Bakery, and the list goes on. And I'm pleased to tell everyone it's important that we maintain that status. And to date, we have signed all 7 major industrial companies to either 5 or 10-year contracts and memorandum of understanding with the town of Cobourg. On top of that, we also own Lucas Point Business Park, which people forget about. They go to the water, they enjoy the park, and they forget that we also have that as an economic driver. To date, we've sold 2/3 of our lot allocation. We have companies moving into the town of Cobourg. They will develop over the next 2 years because they have to build. But that means each agency, whether it be Canada Davy Institution or Brock Street Brewery, as an example, when they come, they'll be bringing employees anywhere from 8 employees, perhaps as many as 50. And again, it seems simple, but when you add that up, that's a great number coming to the town of Cobourg. Again, the other thing you forget about, we increased the expansion of Kerr Street for a number of reasons. Safety, creating a multi-route for citizens. But more importantly, we met our 100-year hazard line to develop a water management pond, which was badly needed for the town of Cobourg. But by doing that dual project together and getting the support of the federal and provincial government, we worked with a proponent who was able to open up right now 6 manufacturing lots on the south side. So again, even though this is a private proponent, there's opportunity to bring 6 more independent businesses to Cobourg. So when I look at this in combination with the growth we've had, the different development, whether it be towards welcoming a new hotel, I know we're working on a Holiday Inn Express, I know we're working towards a Super 8 on Division Street. And you look at all the multiple projects through planning and development,
Yes.
I believe it's going to add on somewhere between 400 and 600 homes to Cobourg.
Wow.
So my answer is, as much as often citizens may think not much has happened in Cobourg,
Right.
we have really, I believe, checked off a lot of these boxes that are important to our economic future for Cobourg and our well-being. With that being said, I want to end that we've also taken a task of major projects, whether it be the waterfront rehabilitation,
Yes.
Monk's Cove rehabilitation, or more importantly, even looking at ourselves as an organization. When we did through KPMG, the Organizational and Service Delivery Review. In other words, we start to look at ourselves with a magnifying glass to say, where were the gaps? What do we need to move forward?
Okay. Excellent. Thank you for that, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome.
Question comes to mind, as a viewer, what comes to my mind is the idea of how does Mayor Henderson see the bird's eye view and the fine details at the same time? How do you balance the overall vision of long-term, but the day-to-day? That must be an interesting journey as mayor.
Well, it is, and I think one of the drivers we have to adhere to is the strategic plan that we develop at the beginning of council. I'm the first to admit now in hindsight 4 years later, we were rather too ambitious.
Okay.
Because the idea of a strat plan is to follow SMART goals. So
Yes.
that means at the end it's attainable and reasonable. You will note that we did not achieve, never came close to some of the objectives that we set at the beginning. And I think that was us just being too optimistic
Okay.
based on the skills and the staff that we have and resources available. And again, not knowing that we're going to go through, again, a COVID environment. I think that and doing metrics quarterly
Yes.
with council, with the public, is a way to measure where are you and are you succeeding? And if you're not, more importantly, why aren't you? In terms of the daily details, I think that comes just from the daily office and the mayor working with CEO, staff, and members of council and the public, because on average, I get between 60 and 100 emails a day.
Good gosh.
And so when you go through those, filter those out, and you can imagine the resources, the people, the departments you're speaking with,
Yes.
it really grounds you, I believe, to what's happening in the town of Cobourg. And for me, I don't know if other mayors have done this, but I often do. I do house calls because I find it so much easier to go to the location, get a firm understanding of what's being said to me, and ultimately, can we help that individual resolve their situation? I like to think we can, but I can be honest with you, that's not always the case. But I think between grounding on your daily effort, combining with midterm metrics and long-term strategic planning, I believe, well, you can understand, I believe in all three.
Yes.
You need all three to work.
Understood.
To gain, to your question, both the daily overview and the long-term goal.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. I feel called to ask about the fact that we're at a juncture. Another election is upon us, another 4-year term, potentially. Can I ask, Mr. Mayor, the idea of where you've come from in this seat as mayor of the town of Cobourg and what changes you feel need to be made moving forward? Are there sweeping changes? Is it more status quo with some fine tuning? What do our viewers need to know?
Well, at this point, again, I'm first to admit we didn't achieve all the outcomes we initially set. It will be interesting to see what the new council, did they agree with that? Would they like to bring in their own changes? What is their vision for Cobourg?
Yes.
There's no doubt in my mind that the harbor rehabilitation will take the entire term of a new term of council.
Yes.
I don't believe that could be taken off the rails. We've got other issues such as the Memorial Arena. We have it. What are we going to do with it? What is its future needs? Likewise, we have new interests. I just went out and learned my first pickleball game. And thank you to the organization for inviting me. But what I discovered, we now have 130 new participants and growing who are demanding more pickleball courts for obvious reasons. Yes. So again, there's a new way moving forward. We're going to have to, as any council in the province of Ontario, we're going to be mandated by developing very detailed asset management plans, aligning with a financial plan for all our town assets by 2024, maybe an extension to 2025. So you can see there are things, again, driven from the province that all towns in Ontario will have to meet this new mandate. So I have no doubt that these will come to the forefront. And again, I'm involved with the CEO and staff on quiet, respectful discussions with the Infrastructure Ontario regarding Brookside. So for me, personally, that's more than exciting. And let's not forget, we started talking about the tannery when I first started on council 12 years ago. So I am really anxious to learn after we finish our OP and comprehensive zoning bylaws. I'm really interested in what we're going to do in terms of affordable rental housing, in particular on the tannery property. So you can see that there's lots before. So in summary, I will say personally, it will be a combination of, I hope, of where we are, not lose sight of the good gains we've made, but yet not closing the door to future opportunities that will serve our community as a whole.
Wonderful. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Just under a couple minutes left before our break, so I would like to invite you to share with our viewers the idea, and I know this is near and dear to your heart, on one hand holding the history here in Cobourg, in the other moving forward into our future. And how do you balance those two? I'd like to provide an opportunity for you to speak to that.
Yeah, that's, you can understand, one of the first things that attracted me to Cobourg 38 years ago was the historical context. That's one of the reasons my wife elected to buy a historical home. And we're still working at it, by the way. I love the historical context in Cobourg. We, I believe, have 4 or 5 now heritage conservation districts. In my first term, 12 years ago, we worked on Court Town. Perhaps we can add it as a new area, which would be fabulous. If not Court Town, maybe in another segment of our beautiful community. So I'm very much a proponent of protecting our heritage, even though I know at times it's costly. And I think that's going to force us to look at what kind of grants and loans do we give, and can we do a better job to help participants. And yet at the same time, we have to welcome growth. And I think as long as we stay to our good planning principles that we've always had in Cobourg, combined with the urban design guidelines, our landscaping design, we now have an urban canopy mandate to follow. So we have some terrific planning that's been done over multiple years. Now I believe we have to follow them collectively and with an integration. And where I'm excited about, which it's a new future, the word sustainability. Because as we move forward, we know we have to do things differently in a different way moving forward, whether it be through EV, materials, built form, amount of landscaping, the water types of management, water management, in essence, to really reflect what the town is working on. We're working on right now the Integrated Community Sustainability Plan and the Green Development Standard. And I believe moving forward, this council and future councils will have to ingrain that into our everyday thinking, because that's when we have to balance growth, intensification, which often is not complementary to heritage.
I hear you. Well, that's an interesting balance, isn't it? Well, thank you for that so much, Mr. Mayor. We're at break time, so I'm going to say thank you for this first step for our viewers. At this point, we'll move forward to our second segment, talk a bit more about specifics of your platform for the next 4 years as mayor. I'll invite you to come back. My name is Mark Johnston. You're watching Your Vote, Your TV's extensive coverage of the 2022 municipal election. We're here with Mayor John Henderson, and we'll see you in just a moment. Welcome back. I'm Mark Johnston, your host for Your Vote, Your TV's extensive coverage of the municipal election of 2022 here in Port Hope and Cobourg. We have the great pleasure of sitting with sitting Mayor John Henderson here in the town of Cobourg. John, just more curiosity about the actual campaign that you're running for another 4 years here in the seat of mayor for the town of Cobourg. Are there the specific pillars you want to share with our viewers?
There are, and at this point I deliberately chose, with my team effort, to follow our 5 Ps. You might say why? Well, that's people, places, partnerships, sorry, I want to give them in order, programs and prosperity. And the reason I elected those or chose those, because we're already doing them within Council's strategic plan. I want to work from a base because, again, until we bring in a new council, redevelop a completely different, perhaps, strategic plan, I want it to work from a base. So I'll try to give one quick example of each. Under people, affordable rental housing, we know we're dying in Cobourg, we're dying in Northumberland. So we have multiple players that we have to work with, in particular the county, who's head of community and social housing units.
Understood.
And so we have to work together, and that means federal, provincial, the county, our non-group organizations, and of course the town of Cobourg. And I firmly believe if we can work together, magic can happen. As an example, quickly from a county perspective, we're redeveloping Elgin Street Park redevelopment. So we're moving from previous 18 units to a brand new unit with 40. There's one example. The other one could be Balder Corporation on the corner of University and, of course, William. They're building a 71 beautiful unit to the sustainability level. Fantastic. How we're able to push that forward, 15 units of those 71 will be built for attainable. So again, it's not all the units, but it's using that partnership and leveraging funding that will allow us to start to create new builds. So that's one example. Under places, I've already spoken about this, it's us taking our good planning principles, our infrastructure, our asset management, and now combining it where we're going for the future. And I use UNESCO because UNESCO is very reflective of what we're doing currently in the Integrated Community Sustainability Plan. In other words, we have to start to integrate not where we are, but where we're going and change our frameworks, maybe our policy procedures moving forward. It's going to be intense. So again, my answer, that's not something just for tomorrow or the next council. I believe this will be with us forevermore.
The golfing analogy would be the long game, as you share.
Absolutely.
That. Very good.
If I talk about partnerships, 2 things come to mind. We spent the whole entire term, almost 4 years at the county, trying to work with the federal, provincial government and a third party. And I'm pleased to report that after 4 years of negotiations, we are now putting together a private business company at Northumberland County with $155 million on the table. And that's to bring 5G technology, not to Cobourg, but also all Northumberland, to serve those 14,000 homes that are underserved. That to me is just beyond brilliant. The other example today, they'll learn this week when I get it out, we've been talking about doing a pilot for commuter. How do we move people within Northumberland for jobs? We have jobs, can't get the people, and vice versa. And how do we move people with our VIA situation right now to the goal? Well, that commuter started this week. There are 4 runs each, and the whole idea of this pilot is to learn how we can better move people to services to jobs, both within Northumberland and again, towards GTA, and from GTA back to Cobourg. So there's a great example to me of partnerships.
Wonderful.
Programs, the one I felt we did not do a good job on. We have youth, we have to care about our youth, and I have to admit we didn't give them much attention. You might blame it on COVID, but again, I think we have to step up. So in my platform, I've indicated I think it's time for a youth center, a youth hub. I'd very much like to see if we can explore a governance mandate for youth, so we can have them on council very much like KPR has student trustees. Could you imagine? Imagine the voice they would have at the table. And lastly, prosperity. I think I've already shared this. Just the amount of growth happening within the DBIA, which is the downtown core, and the amount of growth, of course, in Northern Industrial Park, Lucas Point Park, Business Park, which I already spoke about. you can't lose sight of this because we do have to attract, and if I can use our most recent big business, I'd like to welcome Benico Packaging, who bought the craft site.
Oh, yes, yep.
And there's an example of employment and a great opportunity for the town of Cobourg.
Right here at home. Very good.
Right here.
Thank you for that, Mr. Mayor. I'm always curious for someone in your position. You obviously a long history here in Cobourg Council, into the seat of mayor, a number of years in that role, hoping to do another 4. A mentor of mine once said, anytime you're in front of an audience, a third of the people will love you, a third of the people not so much, and a third of the people are kind of indifferent. And that's a bit of a rule of thumb. I'm curious, in your role as mayor, how do you feel this has gone for you as mayor of the town of Cobourg, with reaction from the community, the support level, concerns and questions and challenges? How has that journey been for you as mayor?
Well, depending who I would ask, Mark, I could tell me someone's 33 1/3% for each category that you just shared with me. But I would like to hope I would get a much better tracking result if I asked another group, especially what we've been able to do, and especially during COVID, that nobody knew what COVID was or was happening.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, I'm proud of our track record. I'm not saying just my track record, but track record, because you can be mayor, but you still need council.
Yes.
I'm still proud of our track record. I'm proud of the achievements we've made during the term, the projects we've taken on. I'm pleased with, as I mentioned, the organizational service delivery review. I'm pleased that we're doing an analysis on our services with detail. And I know some people are angry, so well, can't you do it on your own? Well, when you only have 3 people in a department, they're already working full-time jobs, and we're growing. I think that's what people forget. When I first came here 38 years ago, we're about 12,000 people.
Wow.
We're just slightly now under 21,000 people. The dynamics are changing.
Sure enough.
So for me, I can't base it on number of meetings or just working hard. I think that's the expectation of any mayor. You expect a mayor to do that.
Yes.
But at this point, I hope and trust that you will consider that I've been dedicated and I've tried an attempt to keep the big picture for Cobourg rather than get caught up on singular issues, because issues, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose.
Understood. Bird's eye view once again. Thank you for that. I'd be remiss if I didn't comment on the fact that we have someone here in town that is running against you for the seat of mayor. Do you want to speak a bit about that, Mayor Henderson, about your time here, your experience compared to the other choice that we have in town?
Well, it's simple. I came here 38 years ago by choice. I felt at that time we did a T-chart, my wife and I, we felt that Cobourg had the greatest potential of any site in Northumberland. I'm pleased we made that decision. I was able to raise our family here, and I'm very grateful for that. I simply love Cobourg and want the best for Cobourg. What I do bring to the table as mayor is, simply put, I bring ending my 12th year on council, both planning, development, heritage, deputy mayor role, and now mayor role. Previous to that, I spent time on the Cobourg Police Services Board, and I spent, I think it was 12 to 13 years on subcommittees. So all through pretty much most of my career, I'm the first to admit I took about a 3-year hiatus when I had 3 children in 2 years.
Fair enough.
That turned me in a different direction for a few years.
Right.
But I feel that all these opportunities, working with all these groups, all these individuals, all the varied experiences I've been able to gain. And I must add, when you're mayor, until you're mayor, you don't get the opportunity to really work at the upper tier, which is Northumberland County, which comes with its own roles and responsibilities. And I feel that in my first year, I more than held my own in those roles as well. So at this point, yes, I bring a breadth and depth of experience, which I hope people would want in a mayor role. But with that being said, I know we're in a democracy. You can put your name forward and run based on the merits that you may bring to the position. And I'm very respectful of that. In fact, I'm very respectful of anybody who wishes to put their name forward for any position at the municipal level.
Very good. Well said. Thank you for that, Mr. Mayor. We have just under a couple moments left for our interview today. I'd like to ask you this question. What is John Henderson most excited about for the next 4 years here in Cobourg?
Well, I'm excited about the continuation of major projects that I think we need to bring to finalization for the benefit of Cobourg, and not just for 1 or 2 years, but the harbour, imagine finishing that. That'll be with us for 100+ years, and it's the right thing to do. But at the same time, I'm really excited about Brookside. I'm excited what could still happen about Sidbrook. I'm excited about helping companies like Benico Packaging. How can we help them evolve and get better at what they're doing and be a true partner? I'm excited about the potential for housing and rent, like I mentioned, the tannery property.
Yes.
And this is not yet talking about the things that have yet to come forward. Right. Because every term there's always 1 or 2 brilliant ideas that come forward that I believe council should be part of. So my question is, when you have all that coming before you, who would not want to be mayor working with the council and staff with citizens in the town of Cobourg?
Fair enough, fair enough. Well, just to wrap up, I want to say thank you for your time, Mr.
You're
Mayor.
welcome.
It's been a real joy, as always. I always appreciate your forthcoming energy. And having worked with the International Film Festival, the Eye to Eye Festival here, certainly appreciate your support of the arts and culture as well, and that you're open to coming and speaking to our viewers as you have
Absolutely.
today. Thank you very much, and best of luck with the campaign.
Okay, thank you,
Very
Mark.
good. My
Thank
pleasure
you.
indeed.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again. Cheers. You've been watching Your Vote, which is Your TV's extensive coverage of the 2022 municipal election. I'm your host, Mark Johnston, here with Mayor John Henderson. Great thanks for joining us, and we'll see you